What's up, vapors? Thanks for checking out Daily Vape TV. My name is Nick, and it's Fresh Build Week, Day 3. Today we've got a nice single coil RTA build for you guys. I've got this Monster V3 by 528 Customs that we're going to be building on, but feel free to build along with me with whatever you got in front of you. This build is great for flavor. I got to tell you, this thing is awesome for flavor. Also, you get better battery life out of it because it is slightly higher resistance. Therefore, you don't have to use 200 watts all day on this thing. So, without further ado, grab your mod, grab your addy, your wick, your wire, your tools, and all that good stuff. Let's go down to the close-up view and build it up. And we're off. All right, guys, so first of all, we have this Monster V3 tank here from 528 Customs that we're going to be building on today. I think I'm going to do it in the shorty configuration with the little micro tank on there, the slam kit. I'll be using some Coil Master Clapton wire. This is going to be good for flavor, I'm hoping. And I'm going to need about, I'd say, a good 6 inches or so of this wire here. So let's go ahead and just clip this off. Now, you don't have to use Coil Master wire, but they do sell rolls of Clapton wire now for pretty darn cheap. So you should be able to get your hands on some of this stuff, no problem. As you can see, mine's a little bit twisted up, but no worries there. I think we'll be able to coil with it, no problem. Today we're going to be using a 3mm bit, so I have that all ready to go. So just like any other coil, we're just going to put it through our bit here. I'm not going to use the actual bit for this thing here, or the actual coil jig part of this. I'm actually just going to wrap it by hand. And today we're going to do 6 full wraps. And with this Monster V3 tank, you have to have your leads going in opposite directions because it's sort of like building on a K-Fun, if anyone remembers those. So you have to have your leads going in opposite directions, so I just like to give it a good pull, making sure that coil's nice and tight around that bit. And we're looking pretty good already, so there you go. Very simple coil that we did today here. And like I said, this is just more for flavor than anything. I'm really looking to get good flavor out of this for a single coil. I'm not really too worried about resistance because I've got this on a regulated device, so I can just crank up the wattage if I want a little bit more vapor production. So let's bring in our mod real quick, and we'll get this coil installed. So first thing you want to do is just loosen up your terminals. Pretty much all the way. And you want to seat that coil right on top. Just lay it right down on there and start bending your wires around those screw heads there. This is a crucial step because you really got to get those leads nice and tight for them to sit in place properly. This is one of the more difficult tanks, I think, to build on personally. Really, you got to wrangle that wire, and it's not the easiest thing to do in the world. Sometimes what you should do is just take your pliers and just bend it right around like that, and try again. There we go. Looks like we got it secured, and you just got to be very careful with it. You want to not, screw around with that too much because it might end up popping out, and that's no fun. So just try to keep a good amount of tension on it while you're wrapping it so you don't have to fiddle with it too much after the fact. Squeeze it right onto that screw head. And there we go. Actually, I think that looks pretty proper. We're just going to gently make sure that coil stays right in the middle there without loosening up those screws, hopefully. You just want to get right in there with your clippers. And now the second one. Before we fire this thing up, I just want to make sure there's a lot of clearance, so you just kind of lift up on that coil a little bit, make sure airflow can get underneath that coil. And there we go. Let's go ahead and give this thing some heat. Alright, so I have my mod set at 50 watts right now. I just want a low power setting to get this coil started here. And we're just going to gently pulse it. And just like any other coil, you can just kind of gently brush across the top of it. And just make sure it's glowing nice and evenly from the center out, like that. And we look good. Awesome. So, a couple more little pulses here just to make sure everything is good to go. And we're going to go ahead and wick this thing. So when wicking this style tank, you want to just have a very thin sheet of cotton. I've got my cotton pretty much ready to go here. And since it's about a 3mm coil, we're going to need just about half a sheet. I usually rip off any hard edges first. So as you can see, the edges are very fluffy on these sides there, which is exactly what I like for this style here. And everyone's going to wick a little bit differently. You know, I think I have my own kind of style, and I feel like everyone kind of has their own way they do wicking, but you know what? Whatever works for you is the best way to do it in my personal opinion. So I'm just rolling the tip here, just getting that first little tiny bit nice and tight. And if you feel like you have a little too much excess, you can just rip it off like that before you finish the roll. And just get that first little tiny centimeter there or so nice and tight so it fits right through the coil like that. You want to just pull it through until you feel like you're going to move that coil, and that's when you stop. And when you feel it, you'll absolutely know. Sometimes you got to work it back and forth a little bit just to get both ends nice and fluffy. But this is going to be the fun part here. So you lift both ends up and you fit them through the chimney. You just gently make sure you get all that cotton up and through like that. This is what I like to call the bunny ears technique. So I screw the chimney all the way down, take my scissors, and I trim it off right there. That's all the cotton you're going to need for this. So just like that. What I like to do is to take off the chimney section once again and just tuck the cotton tails down a little bit. And now we're going to just put our chimney on very gently. And if you have any outlying cotton at all, you can just kind of gently tuck it in before you finalize the threading on here. So you just tuck it up ever so gently. That way it doesn't get all tangled up in the threads. You can kind of feel it when it's going to thread on properly. It just kind of has that natural ability to just kind of smoothly thread on. Just like that. That's perfect. And if you have to just gently tuck it down, then you can do so now before you put any juice on there. So there we go. That's our final wicking right there. Let's go ahead and juice this thing up and see if she fires. All right, so I put a little bit of this half-baked Cupcake Freaks on there. So let's go ahead and fire this thing up. And as long as you don't get like a nasty burning kind of smell to it, then you're good to go. Now we're just going to put the top cap back on this thing and fill up the tank. Alright, so I can see the bubbles coming up from the bottom, which is a good sign. Let's go ahead and go back to the main screen and have a quick vape on this thing. Alright guys, we are back. Now we're going to talk about this build for a quick second here. Now first thing I have to mention is that I'm getting tremendous flavor off of this build. The final resistance came out to 0.93 ohms, which is a little bit on the higher side. I was expecting something a little bit lower, but honestly, if you want to try out different wire combinations such as nichrome or stainless steel or anything like that, then you could probably bring the resistance down a little bit. I don't think you're going to get the same vaping experience out of a 0.6 ohm because you're going to end up using a little bit higher of a wattage. I feel like I could crank this up to about 75 watts, but honestly, I don't want to push it for being such a high resistance coil. But with that being said, I'm getting the flavor out of a dual coil. I feel like this one just gives me awesome flavor. I get the high notes, which is the sweetness and like the vanilla icing kind of flavor. I get the middle tones, which are almost like a cream or custard. Then I get the low end, which is more of the rich vanilla flavor out of it. This is the half-baked Cupcake Freaks, which is fan-freaking-tastic. And I get the full-on flavor experience out of this one here. So let me just blow a few more clouds real quick and then we'll sign out. One last thing real quick is I feel like I'm going to get excellent battery life out of this build here. Because it's such a high resistance and I'm only using it at 50 watts, I'm going to save myself a little bit of battery life, so I expect about a day and a half to 2 days worth of battery life on a triple 18650 battery such as the Council of Vapor Tempest or the Relo. With that being said, that about does it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe for more videos just like this. Of course, leave me comments in the box below of what you think of this build, whether or not you want to try it out for yourself, and if you did try it out, let me know what you think. Don't forget to check out the advocacy links in the description below. I've got them down there for you so you can fight for your right to vape. And check me out on all my different social medias. I have Twitter and Instagram. Make sure you follow me on there. Like my page on Facebook. Check out my Snapchat. And if you want to give me a couple of bucks on Patreon, that'd be awesome as well. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for joining me. And as always, vape on!